Get your man the Flute to play song, the fuck.
Dear Gwitch everyone, Kajima Tashiv, and welcome back to episode number 93 of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Guys, it's another classic Inline G episode. We've had a few of these recently where it's just been me, and we're down rabbit holes and we're enjoying it. There's a slightly different feel to this episode. This week's episode has a bit more, I don't want to say sadness to it because I'm not sad. I don't when I'm in panic and don't go calling the Samaritans just yet. But I'm in a very chilled, relaxed mood and I'm very pensive. And I think this episode is going to be reflective of that. There's many reasons for that. Things in my life are actually going very, very well at the minute. Touch wood. And it's been a really great period for me, and that's naturally letting me chill out a little bit more and reflect on things. Also, I'm quite hungover. I'm not going to lie. The Merry Wallopers were in town last night. Great Irish folk band. I had a wonderful night. I drank way more Guinness than I should have. What else is new? And when I get hungover, I get a little bit moany and yappy and meh. Now, I wrote a great episode. So this week, it's another rabbit hole. And it's a really deep one. It's one I have really enjoyed making this week's episode. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And expressing it to you guys and putting it in this medium is self-therapy for me. It's a wonderful way to express myself and get my own emotions out. And we're going to be talking about that and the role of that. The role art has in expression that goes beyond just words. It's a whole full circle thing here, guys. I'm really excited about this episode. Because creatively as well, I'm in a great place. And I think that's very important. When you're in a good place mentally, and you're in a good place in your life, to be creative is suddenly much more easy and accessible and flows. I always remember that quote that stood out with me, which was when Carl Frampton, the world champion boxer, three-time two-time world champion from Belfast, when he made his comeback, he was in such a good place and so happy. He said, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, and a happy musician is a dangerous musician. So I'm in a good place. Maybe you guys notice. I hope you do. But anyway, this all started because something happened last week, okay? So I can't remember what it was for, but last Saturday I was out and I had a few pints with a few friends. It was a lovely occasion. I can't remember what the occasion was, but it was celebrating something. It was wonderful, and it wasn't like a big night. It was 4 or 5 pints, bit of crack, home by 12:30. Now I got home and I wanted to stick a movie on. And I don't know why, but this just clicked into my brain. I remembered when I was about 14, I watched a film, and I really enjoyed it. I couldn't remember what it was. A rom-com. And a couple of years later, I found out what it was called, and I never rewatched it. It was a film called Serendipity. So is anyone not familiar with Serendipity, by the way? Fucking great film. It's got John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale. It's this beautiful romantic comedy. Back in the days when romantic comedies were more romantic than they were comedy. And the whole story revolves around the theme of what serendipity is and what it means and signifies, and a couple that essentially meet each other. Spoilers, small spoilers here. A couple meet each other at the start of the movie, but they've both got partners. They reach for the same glove in Bloomingdale's, the whole classic thing. And the woman heavily believes in fate. And she puts a series of tests down to say, well, if we are meant to be together, fate will bring us together. And then years passes by, and fate does bring them back together. And it's got these beautiful little quirks in it and all these tropes of romantic comedies. She puts her number in a used copy of Love in the Times of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And then says, I'm going to leave it in a secondhand bookshop in New York. And if you ever find this book, you'll have my number and you'll have my name. And he puts his name and number on a $5 bill and puts it into circulation. And like, we'll find each other. It's beautiful. But anyway, I was chatting to someone about this. I was drunk texting someone. Well, not drunk, but tipsy texting someone who's from Georgia, the country, not your Georgia, Americans, not the bad one, the good one. Georgia, the country. And I said, I'm watching the film Serendipity. And obviously this comes when you speak with anyone in a different language, or one of you is not in your native tongue. A lot of more complex words and a lot more specific words, you just don't need them. You haven't learned them yet. So she was like, oh, I don't know what serendipity is. And we talked about it and explained it. And it just got me thinking, because she gave me all these different Georgian words that might translate, but there's never a true translation to any word. And each word had its own little flavour and colour and taste to it that wasn't quite serendipity. And it got me thinking about it. So then what I did was I thought, I'll get the German translation because her German's excellent, so maybe that'll relate a little bit more to it. And the German translation for serendipity is glücklicher Zufall, which is happy accident as a direct translation. And I thought, now this is fucking interesting because the Germans have words for everything. Man, they have words for fucking everything. That's famous with the German language, but they don't have a word for serendipity because happy accident is not quite the same thing. And it got me thinking about this. Yes, it is probably by definition the same thing, but when we use the word, it doesn't mean the same. That's why there's two different words. We have happy accident and we have serendipity. And I was thinking about this, and looking the definitions up doesn't always make it easier. In my mind, a happy accident would be if I bought a jacket, if I bought a second-hand jacket, and I got home and I put my hand in the pocket and there was a tenner in there. 10-euro note. Happy days. That's a happy accident. That's lovely. If I was trying to get a really important train and it was cancelled and I had to get to a meeting and I ran out and jumped in a taxi and the person beside me was like, can I go in your taxi too? We're going together. And we got talking and we fell in love. That's serendipity. That's not a happy accident. That's serendipity. It's got a different thing. It's got a different flavour. There's something about it that just is mwah. And then this got me thinking, and this fucking set my brain away. And I ignited this whole flame about the nature of translation and the importance of words and their meaning. And then obviously it comes into music as well. Now what I did next was, when this wee flame got ignited in my brain last week, I went and met with a German friend of mine. I'm sure she won't mind me saying who it is, but it's Emily from the episode in the Carnival episode. And I just know every time I hang out with people like that, I don't even have to say I want to talk about this. I know the conversation will naturally go in a way that will inspire me and get me thinking, because she's a very intelligent person that gets these things. There's something about the way she talks and the way she views the world that just sort of inspires me and goes, oh yeah, fuck, right enough. You know, and also my therapist once told me that. My therapist once said you should deliberately put time aside in your week to hang out with people that give you that effect, even if they're not your best mates. Even if it's only just to talk shop or to talk about one specific thing, but it ignites that. Because you need specific people in your life. And no one can give you everything. Your mates who you watch the football with, who you go to the pub with, the mates who you go to fucking concerts with, or the mates who you watch Eurovision with, might not be the same ones that inspire that creative bug in you. So you have to go and make time for it. And that's what I do. Now, I didn't want to talk to Emily specifically about this topic, about serendipity and stuff. I just knew if I would maybe talk about it, something would come up. And it did. It did. Because at some point, we were in the pub actually. Oh, fuck. A lot of my stories have been in the pub recently. But we went to the pub for a pint and we're chatting away. But at the same time, the Arsenal-Real Madrid match was on the TV behind us. Now, I couldn't see the match, but there was a moment where, and I love this in football, I really love this. You get it in the stadium as well, but when there's nearly a goal and you get everyone collectively going, what? And there's that silence. And that silence sits there. It just lingers. You could smell that. It's so unique because it's only a couple of seconds, but a whole room holds its breath, and you know one of two things is happening afterwards. You're going to get an uproar, or you're going to, oh, for fuck's sake. But that silence is gorgeous. I love that. You hear it in the stadium, you can close your eyes, you hear that, you know something's coming. It's, I get off on that. And I said to Emily, I was like, oh, that silence is so fucking poetic, man. That's such a poetic moment. I love that. And then she was like, fuck, I remember when we first met all those years ago, you used to say everything was fucking poetic. And I was like, well, everything is poetic to an extent. And then she asked me something really interesting. She said, first of all, what does poetic mean for you? And secondly, what's the difference between something being poetic and something just being beautiful? Now we're thinking again. Now we've got another flame going in about words and their meaning and what's going on. So today's episode has came out of this. So I'm going to use a vehicle for today's episode that's going to relate to music and to art in general to explain all these ideas. We're going to work it out together. I'm in a very chill mood as well today. Maybe this is the kind of podcast you should be listening to before you go to bed. Because I'm not very high energy, but I'm in a good place. I'm enjoying this. My brain's going here. So I'm going to be using melancholy, the theme or the idea or the emotion or the flavour of melancholy as a vehicle to explore all the themes that I've been working with over this week. So lads, I want you to strap in and get ready. Also, by the way, in my notes here, I've typed out, I don't have the autocorrect on this, but it says strap on. That is a typo. It's not a Freudian slip, right? Don't be strapping on anything. Now, right, here we go. So, the importance of specificity. Fuck me, that's a hard one. Specificity. How specific things are in language, right? So, I've talked about this before, but why do we have very specific words in language? And why does it matter to have these words? Like, we've talked about this again, and I can't even remember what episode I discussed this in, but the importance of language and the role it plays, and then how that then goes into music. Now, we're going to look at language as a really we're going to explain to me like you're 5 kind of thing. Explain to me like I'm 5. We're going to go right back. So if we look at language, and let's think about it, language is what we use to talk to each other. Now, it comes way back. Language goes right back to the fucking caveman days, and it's been evolving and developing constantly since, and it will always continue to evolve and develop. And it serves many, many purposes in our modern lives. But one of the first things it serves, and especially with cavemen back in the day, is an exchange of information. It's a transactionary nature. I have a piece of information, and the only way I can express it to you, or the best, most efficient way to express it to you, is through language, so I will say it. So you want something, language tells you how to get there. For example, if I go into a pub and the barman says to me, what can I get you to drink? If I can't point at the pint, I need my language to tell them what beer I want. Easy. I can go, hello mate, I'll have a Guinness, thank you very much. There's me using language in a transactionatory nature to get my lovely pint. But that's a very basic level, and it gets more complex every time you look at it. Even in that example, it gets more complex. So, barman says to me, what can I get you? I could say Guinness. I could just look him in the eye and go, Guinness. Or I could say, hello mate, good to see you, hope you're keeping well, hope your mother's well. I'll have a pint of Guinness please when you get the chance. Now, both of those things in terms of transactionatory nature serve the same purpose. I want a pint, I'm expressing that to the barman, and he's going to get me a pint therefore. But there's a couple of reasons why you use one as opposed to the other. One reason is you just enjoy it. It's the pleasure of using language in different words. It's fun, and you have a lot more to say with it. But the other thing is, the first one there of Guinness, yes, that will get me a pint, but it'll probably get me a big load of spit in it as well. Because there's going to be assumption attached to that, and that's the thing with language as well. This is the second layer we're getting down to in my mind palace. The assumption that you would have if someone just went Guinness is that I'm being rude. And it's meant with some kind of negative intent, potentially. Now, that might not be true. I might have zero negative intentions behind my expression. But we have to be careful of language and the implication and its perceived meaning. That's an important thing in general. This is why people talk about fucking cancel culture. You can't say anything these days. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Nobody's stopping you from saying what you want. But people can call you a prick for it and they can not like you. I mean, I hate this. I hate this whole thing of, oh, you can't say anything these days. I mean, mate, you can. You can be racist and sexist if you want. Just people aren't going to be your friend. They're going to call you a cunt back to it. You can still say it, but there's consequences to your language. We tell children from day one, use words like please and thank you. And that will get you further in life and it will do better because people will perceive it to be polite and positive and you're looking after them. You've got well-mannered intentions. It's going to get you more of what you want. Now, again, this example of the barman and the pint, it's basic, but it's also just the tip of the iceberg of where language can go. I'm really dumbing this down now, lads, because beyond just asking for pints, we can use language to describe emotion. So, for example, I can tell someone, hey, I'm sad. I'm feeling sad today. And they understand that. They know what sad means and it triggers a response in them. For example, they know it's the opposite of happy and they know it's negative. Okay? But try to describe your sadness. Try to describe a sadness in general without using what caused it. Okay? Because when you do that, what you're allowing is you're allowing the other person to fill in the blanks with their own ideas then. That's not what we do. Okay? Trying to describe your sadness needs more tools and more words to really get the idea of it. And describing it, why is it important? You have to describe your own emotions well because one, it's good for yourself. It's called emotional intelligence. Being aware of your own emotions and labeling them correctly will make it better for you to deal with them and will overall have you feeling much better and happier as a person. But also, if you can express your emotions accurately and the most specific possible way, it's going to be easier for others to empathize with you and with those emotions. And you're going to get a nicer experience and a better connection with other humans over it. So that's why we have to be really clever and really intentional about how we're going to express our emotions. So we'll go back to sad. If sad is the start, okay, we can sort of find a few ways to make this more specific. For example, we can even just go, are you sad as fuck? Are you sad as fuck? Or are you just a wee bit sad? And there's a whole spectrum and world within those two things. So let's do a diagram. Let's put this in your head. Bear with me here, lads. I'm working a lot of this out as a roll here. Put sad at the top. And you know, like when you have the wee family trees and you got like the branches coming down and then they split into two and then those ones split and split like a family tree. Sad's at the top, okay? Now, sad will come down and it'll branch into different words, different types of sadness. You'll have things like, I don't know, grief, heartbreak, disappointment, regret, homesickness, sorrow, hurt, loads of them, all right? They're the next level. Now, these also will in turn branch off even into more specific words to try and get exactly what kind of sadness you're talking about. Because if I say to someone, I'm feeling sad, that's going to have a different reaction to, I'm experiencing grief. And it will change the way the person reacts to me. And then if I say I'm experiencing strong grief, it's going to be there. Now, somewhere along this wee tree, we're going to find our friend, Melancholy. And I love Melancholy, man. Now, we're going to talk about Melancholy right now, okay? But please, hold on to this idea of the tree, okay? Keep that in your mind. I could add like a digital thing, like a visual, actual family tree thing. But I can't be fucked, all right? And I can't get the staff around here. So, hold on to that idea. Do you know, recently, last 2 weeks ago, I went out for a couple of drinks in Cologne with a bunch of therapists, all therapists. Everyone there was a therapist. Don't ask me why, but we were out with them, and what I noticed when you hang about with any therapist is they are so good at this. They're so good at... I don't know if they're naturally good at this, by the way, and that's why they become a therapist, or it's part of their training. You know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's that kind of thing. But in any case, they're very good at it, because when I'm talking, I'll have my train of thought and I'll follow it along, and I'll be going along a nice big main road, and then at some point I'll see a wee dark alleyway just off my main road and go, I could go have a wee look down there. This is me talking, then I'll follow that wee dark alleyway down, and then as I'm down the dark alleyway I'll see a wee river and I go, fuck, there's a wee river, I'll pop down there, and then I'm in the river, and then I'll go for a big swim, and then I'm fucking underwater, and I pop my head up and I look around and go, where the fuck am I? Where was I even trying to get to? Where did this whole road start? I lose myself so much when I'm talking. So much. But therapists are really good at holding on to that initial thought. They're holding on to it like an anchor, like a rope. They tie a wee rope around you. And no matter how far you go, they can say, here, just follow the rope back. This is what you were meant to be talking about. Do you know who else is great at that, by the way? When I was interviewed for, and she was on this podcast, Heidi K. Begay from Flute 360. Fucking amazing at that. She's an expert at holding on to what you said originally and not getting too carried away with it and bringing you back. It's beautiful. So, please, hold on. I'm giving you the rope here, lads. Here's your wee rope tied around your waists. Think of the diagram. So, we're going to dive into the river now, the stinking river of melancholy. I love this. Urgh. So, I Googled melancholy, as you would, to start off this. And you get a lot of different definitions. And again, I have talked about definitions. But the definitions we get, here's a couple from different dictionaries across the world. In English, we have a feeling of pensive sadness, typically with no obvious cause. Melancholy. Or melancholy. Sadness that lasts for a long period of time, often without any reason. Or melancholy. A suggestion of sadness or depression of the mind or of the spirit. Now, we've talked about definitions before. They're very fickle things. I'm going to be very careful how we talk about definitions, because definitions come after the word. The word comes first, then the definition usually comes, okay? They're often added in retrospect, especially with modern language, where things change or update so often. And things do change and update in language, all right? This is not some kind of fucking woke liberal, although I am a woke liberal, but it's not some kind of agenda, okay? This is fucking fact, okay? I can think of 1,000 examples, but one I always love hearing is the word awesome. Awesome used to mean awe-inducing. It was something that was so incredible, it would smack you of awe. You'd be thunderstruck and shocked by it. Awe is a huge reaction of great shock. Does awesome mean that anymore? No. Awesome means like someone doing a fucking kickflip, man. Someone does a kickflip in the skateboard, you go, man, that was awesome. That's what awesome is. Right? This fucking Spetsy is awesome. My new glasses, the dammers here, my fucking tinted dammers, they're awesome. That's what awesome means nowadays. We've updated it. It doesn't mean awe-inducing, although these glasses would. But that's also why, very, very small side note here, hold on to that rope. That's why the people who say, you know when you have the trans argument and people are like, oh, define a woman for me, pricks like Charlie Kirk on the internet, and they're like, define a woman, and you're like, mate, you're a cunt. You're an absolute cunt for saying that, because you know definitions change, words change. You can't just take the dictionary definition of a woman and say, well, that's what women are, because women's definitions change. Definitions of all words change and they update. You don't win the argument by saying it's because it's in the dictionary. The dictionary will change. In 20 years' time, the dictionary will be different. And then you'll be like, oh, it's all fucking woke liberalism. It's not. Words change. The meanings change. Language evolves naturally. Awesome. So, melancholy. Melancholy has changed a lot over time. The very start of the word melancholy came from ancient Greek. It was melancholia. I'm obviously not pronouncing that right. And it means black bile. And this is actually, It's kind of disgusting, but really super interesting. There used to be a thing called humoral theory with the ancient Greeks, and it basically had that all human emotions were governed by 4 bodily fluids. Yeah, bodily fluids. So there's 4 of them, and it's not the fun ones either. So the 4 fluids are blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. And the humoral theory states that these 4 fluids dictate all human emotion. And the idea was too much black bile, like a real excess of it, caused like this introverted, introspective, gloomy, pensive temperament, which was then given the name melancholia. Okay? Then the definitions changed, as words do, and the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period developed that a little bit and took it a little bit more away from meaning something that was literally ill or physically wrong with you, and it went more towards this kind of thoughtfulness, creative, artistic, pensive thing, more of like an emotional depth melancholy. And then a lot of writers came along especially, and they really latched on to this emotion. People like Lord Byron and Keats. Melancholic fucking kings, lads. And it still has a kind of fluid definition. No pun intended there. But it does have like a fluid definition, melancholic. Because although it's generally associated with something to do with sorrow and looking inwards and introversion and introspectiveness, a sense of longing, maybe nostalgia. What do you think when you hear the word melancholic? Because we've all heard this word and we've all used it. What's the name for that fucking thing? You know when you don't hear anything about something for a while and then you learn the word and you're hearing it everywhere? One of my students the other day, who's German, actually, I'm going to tell you about this exercise later, but I asked her to describe the emotion or color of a piece of music, and she said, I don't know the word in English. I know it in German. I was like, what is it in German? She went, melancholisch. And I was like, oh man, are you fucking kidding me after I've been reading about this for a week straight? Class, man. There's the batter something theory. It's 2 words. Yeah. Anyway, it's like where you don't think about something, you hear about it once, and then suddenly it's all around you. Anyway, I was held onto that rope because we're going back now. So now you know what melancholy is, okay? We don't. And that's kind of the point of it, maybe. So we're going to go back. We've got our diagram, right? We've got our sadness at the top. We've got our subcategories. And somewhere along the line, we've got melancholy. Now, melancholy, I don't know if it's going to split into anything even more. I don't think there's anything we can withdraw from melancholy or divide it into more specific words. Now we've got a problem. Because what happens if what you're feeling, melancholy isn't quite it, and you're looking for something to describe it, and you can't? And this is where language then turns into art. This is where art takes over. And this is actually kind of the entire role of art, in my very humble opinion, or the essence of art. The true essence is to express the things that we cannot express with words. Now, okay, yes, art can also be used to decorate and entertain and to add color, but the true meaning of art, the real depth of it, is to express what cannot be expressed with words alone, to express the inexpressible. Composers will often look to do this, okay? And not just composers, writers especially. Because when I say not using words, I don't mean writers don't apply. I mean, you can't find one specific word for it, so you might have to write a fucking poem. You might have to write an entire poem to just have that specific feeling. I'll give you a direct example of that. I've been feeling very melancholic recently. I've been feeling a lot of emotions here. Very nice ones. But throughout my life, the Arctic Monkeys, my favourite band, I've always found Alex Turner, just whatever happens, when he's writing the songs, he's always been able to find something that will, when I hear his description of it, I go, that's what I'm feeling. And it might not be, perfect example, one of my favourite songs is a song called Stuck on the Puzzle. And one of the lines, it's a love song, and one of the lines is something like, he's describing the emotion he had when he sees the woman's fingers reaching to dim a light. And as soon as I hear that, I go, I know what that feeling is. I know what you're trying to talk about when you say that feeling of watching someone's really beautiful hands, beautifully aesthetic hands, turning the dimmer down on a light, because it's all the intention and the flavour around that and what could be, what couldn't be. But it describes it in a beautiful way. That's such a specific thing. And he needed those words to do it, and he had to think about them a long time, but it worked. It worked for me. It gave me exactly what I thought I wanted to do. So it'll express the inexpressible. Now, why do we do this as artists? Not just writers, but painters, musicians, performers. We do this. Why do we do this? Because we need to make sense of our own emotions. And this is hard. Because, again, some things just can't be put into words, and you're feeling these awful things. That's why the most obvious time you'll see this is when someone is going through a period of intense grief, and they just cannot fucking survive without having a song. You know, when someone really important to you dies, and you just cannot, no matter how much people talk to you, it just doesn't make it better. But a certain song, a certain piece of music, a certain poems. It's so sad that the main time we hear poems are at fucking funerals. But that's why we hear them at funerals, because they just work. They express something that we just can't do otherwise. You can get that with everything. Every emotion you have, you can find that if you're willing to look at it. And that's why artists create it, because we are trying to look as a way to try and get that out. We can't do it with words. The emotion I'm feeling just can't be said with words. I cannot find a fucking word to do it. And I might have to write an entire piece of fucking music to find out a way of getting that out of me. But it's such a therapeutic exercise to go looking for it. Because you have to look at yourself, you have to label your emotion, you have to search it, you have to look at it and taste it and kiss it and lick it and smell it to get it to go somewhere. You have to get very intimate with your own emotion. And that's a beautiful thing. And that is the essence of being an artist. It's fucking great. Because, you know, like, is there a word for the feeling of missing someone who's in the same room as you? No, there's no word for that. Is there a word for how when something fades and you know it's going to disappear, a beautiful thing fades and disappears, it's for that little period of time even more beautiful? There's no word for that. Or is there a word for that feeling when it's a Thursday afternoon and the sun is out and you go for a pint at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the first sip with the sun coming through the window and you're at the bar and the Guinness is there, and that first sip, you say sláinte, you click the glasses and you just suck on it like a mummy's teeth. Is there a word for that? No, of course there isn't, because you know you shouldn't be pinting as well. You know you shouldn't be drinking a Thursday. Or my favourite one when it comes to drinking, I could write poems about drinking, lads. My favourite one is when you're going out for a pint or two, like we're going for one pint, and then the barman comes down and says, do you want a second pint? And you both look at each other and you both know you're going to have a second pint. That was never part of it, but you play this role. You act in the farce and you go, well, you haven't one. If you have one, I have one. And then the other one goes, well, maybe I can. And then you have that wee moment you go, fucking one more. That whole farce, that drama, the play, the theatre of it all that we put on. I love that. I fucking love that. That is pure art. It gets me going, that. It makes me so happy when that happens. That's great. There's no word to describe that, lads. There's no fucking way. Now, even there, I'm describing it the best I can. I'm using as many words as I can to describe these emotions. Hopefully you can relate to it. If I went more specific with my words, hopefully you would definitely get there. But you can see what I mean. These things don't have words. No words can describe these. So we go to poetry. We go to art. And poetry can be particularly good at this because we can get the exact feeling of the writer because they use words, and words can be very specific and clear. Music can do this to us, but music is a little bit more fluid, and maybe that's the power of music, especially music without words. It doesn't tell you what you're feeling, and it is left up to you a little bit, and that's beautiful. You know, Mahler once said, if a composer could say what he wants to say in words, he wouldn't bother trying to say it in music. And that's so true. If we had the words for it, why the fuck would you bother writing it down? You don't need to. Or there was a neuroscientist, Semir Zeki, nearly got there, who said, the function of art is not to depict the world as it is, but to create a world that is more understandable. And that comes into the whole thing, does life imitate art or does art imitate life, and blah, blah, blah. It's beautiful. So, I'm going to give you an example of this. And this is maybe where it might help you a little bit, but this is what's been on my mind here, lads. So this week, right now, in Germany, is the last week before the Easter holidays. So I've got loads of students coming in, but you know, it's the last week of the holidays. The weather's gorgeous here in Cologne. The whole atmosphere of the city's just picked up. There's just this beautiful buzz about it. And nobody really wants to do any fucking work. Nobody wants to practice for their exams. Nobody wants to practice for their orchestra pieces. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it, all right? It's time to have fun. The sun's out there. Let's enjoy a lesson. So I've got this little exercise I've been working on where I wanted to try and remind all my students of why we're musicians, because I think they lose that when they're doing exams and all this shit. So I wanted to go with a design a lesson, and it doesn't fly, but I did it once and it works so well. I've done it with every student now. Design an exercise which would highlight or strengthen the concept of expressing intention. This whole artist versus technician thing. Using your technical proficiency on the instrument and your ability and what you can do in the instrument to then directly serve an emotional expression. And not just your emotional expression, but the composer's emotional expression. And it was so much fun doing that this week. So I would sit with a student and I'd say, right, what do you think about this music? Give me words for it. Give me ideas. We'd get more specific. We'd frame it. I would help them. Just like gently nudge them along to make sure they have as many words to describe the music as they can. Then we would talk about all the different things in their toolbox, all the different things you can do with your instrument that would maybe serve that. We look at which ones would work to express which thing, and we try to make a coherent thing about it where they're expressing. And it's very important to say to them as well that the emotions they feel or what they think the composer is trying to achieve might be different than mine. And not only is that acceptable, that is great because that is their artistic view. And that's where their artistry comes into it. What they view it as is up to them. That's their part of their emotion. That's why doing classical music is such a fucking privilege because there's no words. So we get to play into this whole thing. We're very much so part of the overall project. It's not like covering a song where it's someone else's words. You're very much in this because it's your interpretation of what the composer meant, which you can never really know because most of them are dead and they're fucking brown bread. And it's been such an enjoyable experience this week teaching them. And I encourage you all to try and do this. I'm going to give you the direct way of doing this in a minute. But I think because things have went so well for me in the last few months, and I've took a long break from orchestral playing, as you all know, if you listen to this podcast regularly, and I've got back into it, and things are going so well now, and I've got some big announcements about my career coming up, which I can't wait to tell you. And they've all happened because, one, I've stopped giving a fuck about playing things wrong or doing things wrong, or to be honest, I've stopped giving a fuck about performing because I've got so much. I've got a great social life. I'm making decent money. I've got a lovely little apartment here, and everything's great at the minute. I don't need the flute to serve me anymore. And the minute I stopped giving a fuck, everything started coming towards me. And I can do it with this open heart and this open mind where I'm not stressed about music anymore. I'm just enjoying it. It's a benefit to my life. It's not the be all and end all. The pressure's gone and I'm fucking flying. And it's given me back that thing that I only had maybe just before music college or in the very first year of college, where I still think it's a fucking privilege to be able to play music. It's a fucking honor and a privilege that you get to do this. And you should never, it's unforgivable to do anything on your instrument, not one fucking note. And I really mean this, not even a warm-up note, without giving it 100%. There's no fucking point in doing it otherwise. Do something else. You've got better things to do with your time than playing the fucking flute. Every note you should be giving it. Not because it's going to be a good performance or it's going to get you into an orchestra. None of that bollocks. All that stuff is a byproduct. The reason you should be doing that is because it's good for you. It's good for your soul. It's good for your sense of identity and worth and your emotional and talent. Everything will get better if you start loving your instrument and loving every note you give it to it. Ugh. Lads, go and do it. Go fucking give your flute some love. There's a joke in there somewhere as well, which I'm not going to make. But we are such lucky cunts. I love it. It's so good for you. Now, here, I'm going to give you the exercise I've given my students, because maybe you'll find this helpful, right? I want you to go and get a piece of music. Something short, preferably. Something like melody. Just a melody. There's a couple of great books for it. If you want an example of melody, send me a message. I have a couple of PDFs of just great wee melodies, all right? Classic melodies. I want you to get a melody, and I want you to play through it once or listen to it, and then we're going to start describing it. So here's your parameter. Here's example parameters of how you're going to describe it. I'm just going to edge you along here. I'm going to keep you between the hedges, all right? It's your thing, but I'm going to give you some things to maybe think about. So take your melody and give it, these are the extremes. So everything's on a sliding scale here, but on a scale of light to dark. Where are you going to stick your melody in here? Is it a dark melody? Is it a light melody? Is it a little bit dark, a little bit light? Where is it on that? Just have a think about that and give it a spot. Next up, happy to sad. Where does it sit on that scale between happy and sad? See how specific you can get it and find out exactly where it is in those two things. Next, warm and cold. And that's a very subjective one, but what does it feel like to you? So many things can influence that. The fucking weather outside can influence that. When I was playing I played Grieg with a student last week, a Grieg melody. For me, it instantly has to be cold, because I know it's Grieg and I know he's from Norway, so it's instantly associated in my head as cold. She didn't get that. She thought it was warm. That's great. She's going to play it warm. It's going to be totally different than mine. But anyway, warm and cold, it's a great one. Really put that one up in your list of priorities, because it's very personal to you. And the last one, give it a color. Just pick any color. We all know the spectrum of colors. There's loads of them. Find a color that you think suits this piece and give it that one. So, and write these things down. Go fucking make a note of them. Give 4 things. Light to dark, happy to sad, warm to cold, and a color. And lads, this will take fucking a minute and a half. 2 minutes tops to sit and write these down. Don't think about it too long. You should be doing this regularly. Don't just do it once. Do it loads of times. Now, here's a few things to consider how you're going to express each one of those things. Technical things on your instrument you can do. that will maybe have a link to it. So for example, dynamics, okay? I know there's dynamics written in the piece of music, okay? But if a composer writes piano or mezzo forte for an entire melody, that doesn't mean you play every single note at the same volume. There's going to be little dynamics and waves and moves within it. You can get louder, you can get quieter. That's something you can use. So have a look at it and think, well, if I want it to be warm, what am I going to add to the dynamics that the composer's already written to give it a warmth? Am I going to play it louder? Do you associate loud with warm? Great. Go do that. There you are, number one. Number two, articulation. Now again, you have to use the ones that if the composer says use the tongue, use the tongue. If he says don't use it, don't use it. If it's staccato, it's staccato. But there's a whole world of articulation within that. How much tongue are you going to use? How aggressive is it going to be? Is it going to be t, d, g? What are you going to do with it? There's all these things. You know what it means. Like a really aggressive t as opposed to a d have two different aesthetic. Sorry, audio listeners are two different aesthetic colors, flavors. Figure out which ones are going to suit up to what you're doing, okay? Again, I don't know, maybe you're talking about happy and sad. Maybe an aggressive to feels sad to you. Great, stick that one in. Tempo. Tempo is so important because most composers will only write, especially pre-21st century, they'll only write a tempo marking. They'll not give, no, sorry, they won't give a tempo marking. They won't give like metronome equals whatever. They'll just say andante or adagio or poco adagio or fucking vivace. That's up to you. There's a whole spectrum in there of what that is. And we know straight away tempo affects music mood. A little bit faster will give it a totally different flavor. Maybe faster to you means happier. Maybe it means more warm. Maybe it means more green. I don't know what it is. Try and figure out which one it is and apply it to it. And the last one, and probably the big one for us, my favorite thing on the flute, vibrato or vibrato. The fucking beautiful shake of it. Figure out what vibrato is for you. Faster vibrato, does it mean happier? Slower vibrato, does it mean unhappier? Maybe it doesn't. How often do you use it? Do you use it in every single note? Is more frequent vibrato use associated with warmth or is it associated with coldness? And there's also like the depth of the vibrato. There's a couple of things to play with. Go and have a look with them. Okay, go have a play with them. Make 2 lists. Make it in your fucking phone. Don't write things in paper, lads. Writing things in paper makes it so fucking unachievable. My students are like, oh, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to do this and I'm going to get practice time. I'm like, yeah, you are, and you're going to stop doing it after 2 weeks. You got an iPhone. Open up your fucking notes app and just stick it in there. It doesn't matter how much it looks like shit. You're not going to reread it. You're really not. You're going to delete it or you're going to reread it in 3 years' time when you're drunk. It doesn't matter. Fuck paper. Get a fucking iPad out. Or an iPad. Get your iPhone notes app out. Do it all in there. Now, Melancholy. Maybe you'll get to a piece and be like, this one's melancholic. And I hope you do, lads. I really do. Because if you get the word melancholic, it's great and you can go and explore it. And this will tie into the podcast. But if you don't, and you want to know what melancholy sounds like in music, there's only one person, there's one composer you go to for melancholy, and that is Frédéric Chopin. Okay? Now, quickly, before I go on to the end of this podcast and we talk about Chopin and his link to melancholy, please bear with me. Hold on to the fucking rope, even though I fucked the rope out ages ago. Hold on to the rope because I need to do the Patreon read. So really quickly, the Inline G podcast is free and always will be free. That's a motherfucking guarantee. But if you want to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address, and for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. It costs €5 a month. Listen, lads, I'm going to be quick here. You can jump in and out whenever the fuck you want, okay? You can put a $5 a month into it. If next month you can't afford it, you jump out. There's no weird hidden fees. Just don't sign up through Apple in the app because they take 30%. Do it on your, that's a big screen job going into the Patreon or a browser in your phone. Basically, what you're doing is this podcast doesn't have sponsors. I don't want sponsors anymore. Because the few conversations I've had with them, I can't say this, I can't say that, I can't do this, I can't do that. Don't mention mental health, don't swear, don't talk about politics. They can go fuck themselves. I don't even want them anymore because right now, the amount of people on Patreon right now means that this, the biggest flute podcast in the world, is 100% listener funded. That is fucking incredible. And you're all doing it to support the art. It is fucking amazing. Honestly, I cannot tell you how insane it is that this community's been built up. The flute world has tried to build up good communities for fucking donkeys. No one has succeeded because they always pocket it or abuse it. We're not doing that. This is a very cyclical, reciprocal relationship. I love yous. I'm going to make the content that you want and you're going to pay me directly for it. And it's a $5 a month. Basically, if you saw me in the pub and you listen to 4 episodes of this podcast every month, because it comes out every fucking Friday, even though it's like, again, fuck, I need to get this out in the next 3.5 hours. If you think I listen to 4 episodes, 4 hours of entertainment. I'll give Gareth a $5. I'll buy him a pint to say thank you. Do it digitally. There you are. You don't get anything extra, okay? I really believe that Inline G is for everybody. If they can't afford it, you're not getting extra episodes. I don't think it's fair. I think everyone deserves an episode. You're doing it because you're kind and you're sound and you're supporting the art and you're building the community. If you can afford it. If you can't, it's grand. Keep listening for free. Thank you very much, guys. Now, Chopin and Melancholy. Let's finish this. Because, like, Chopin and Melancholy, they go together like... They go together like... What is that? Go together like... Shibidi-wop-wop. Chopin and Melancholy go together like shibidi-wop-wop and flubidi-wop-wop. Beautiful. I would say like peanut butter and jelly, but fuck that. It's disgusting. The idea of that. Peanut butter is great in its own, leave it. Peanut butter and gochujang, they go together like that. Mwah. They go together like Dwight York and Andy Cole in the 1999 Man United treble winning season. Just fucking beautiful. That's what they go. They go together like Florian Wirtz and Patrick Schick. Or Shinsuke Nakamura and Neil Lennon. These are what things. These are combos now, alright? But there's a couple of reasons why Chopin is associated with melancholy, okay? It's almost like pop culture now to say Chopin's melancholic. And like even the fact that I use a Chopin Nocturne for my Patreon read shows you how pop it's being in. But there is genuine reason for it. So first of all, Chopin had a rough life himself. You have to know this. He died at like 39, alright? He left Poland at 20, his home country, because there was an uprising going on there. He never really got to attach himself to the culture before he left. He was always very embarrassed about that. And he had this huge homesickness and yearning for Poland that never went away. It's why he wrote so many mazurkas and polonaises. It was a whole love letter to Poland. He really missed it and he never quite got over that. He had tuberculosis, not great. And he had this really wild, tempestuous relationship with George Sand. George Sand, I suppose the English pronunciation, the writer in Paris. Which really fucked him. It really, really fucked him. Now, also, Chopin's music is very intimate, very, very intimate, just by the way he writes. So most of his music is written for solo piano or piano plus 1 or 2 other instruments. He doesn't really write for anything bigger than that. He has wrote some concertos or some piano concertos for the entire orchestra. They're shite. I mean, the piano part's amazing. The music's amazing. The orchestral parts are so badly written. They're fucking dog shit, and it is boring as sin to play if you're in the orchestra. His nocturnes especially are the ones you should listen to. They're amazing. And finally, I've been able to tie this episode back to an Irish person quickly. So the person who invented nocturnes was John Field, an Irish pianist. Chopin made them famous, but John Field made them. It's a bit like how they say with football, England invented it, the Brazilians perfected it. The Irish invented nocturnes, the French perfected it. Well, French, Polish. And that Chopin never screams. This is the thing. Chopin's music never screams. It whispers. It's hard to really know what melancholy is. And we're rounding up the episode now here. It's hard to know what melancholy is, lads. But I'm maybe trying to define melancholy with words, especially when melancholy refers to a sadness that you don't know where it comes from or without a reason. Trying to put it into words is a paradox in itself. Maybe. But where words can't describe melancholy, Chopin can. He whispers about the beauty that you find in pain. It's nostalgic. It's delicate. It's full of grief in this really gentle way. It's tender. It's incredibly tender music if you just let it be that to you. So go listen to a bit of Chopin. Chopin's music will never die. As long as there's humans, there will be people out there. As long as humans are here on the earth, there will be humans who will never understand sadness properly. We are never going to get to that emotion. We're never going to truly understand what sadness is. So people will always turn to Chopin to find the answer. He was as good as God. Unfortunately, also, Chopin wrote fuck all for the flute, apart from that theme and variations on a Rossini theme, which is shite. Absolute shite. Okay, it's a good piece of music, but it's not Chopin. It's not the real Chopin. If you want to play Chopin on the flute, fucking find some free arrangements. FluteTunes.com have loads of arrangements of Chopin. The waltzes and the nocturnes and all for flute. They're a bit of a bollocks to have like 5 flats in them most of the time, but that's part of the colour, so go and learn it. If not, get an easier version for the first 5. But go play some Chopin, lads. It's good for your soul. So now you know about melancholy, and now you know about expression, and now you know how to analyse a piece of music to try and express directly through it, to give that flame back of why we are musicians and why we do what we do. So this weekend, go and do that. This weekend, go and break your own heart. Go and break your own wee heart because you deserve it. And let me know how you all get on. Now, I'm going to end this podcast with I'm going to read this because I haven't really figured out a way to end this episode because I haven't got to the end of this train of thought yet myself. It's going to be something to think in a long time, but this is where I've got to with it because I was reading about Chopin and I read that thing about life imitating art and blah, 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 and then two things came to my mind. One, Chopin was always linked to me with Oscar Wilde because they're both buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, so I often went to visit both of them when I lived there. And the other thing, I've forgotten, but it was something to do with Oscar Wilde anyway. Oh, life imitating art. That's a quote from this. So I'm going to read you this. This feels like the nice way to round this up. This is the preface to Oscar Wilde's only novel, only wrote one, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, the preface is an artistic view talking about art. It's beautiful. So we're going to end with that. Listen, if you're already done, listen, go to sleep now. I'm just going to read out this and then I'm going to say goodbye, all right? So, the artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim. The critic is he who can translate into another manner or a new material his impression of beautiful things. The highest, as the lowest form of criticism, is mode of autobiography. Those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. That is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For those there is hope. They are the elect to whom beautiful things mean only beauty. There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written, that is all. The 19th century dislike of realism is the rage of Caliban seeing his own face in a glass. The moral life of man forms part of the subject matter of the artist, but the morality of art consists in the perfect use of an imperfect medium. No artist desires to prove anything, even things that are true can be proved. No artist has ethical sympathies. An ethical sympathy in an artist is an unpardonable mannerism of style. No artist is ever morbid. The artist can express everything. Thought and language are to the artist instruments of an art. Vice and virtue are to the artist materials for an art. From the point of view of form, the type of all the arts is the art of the musician. From the point of view of feeling, the actor's craft is the type. All art is at once surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril. Those who read the symbol do so at their peril. It is the spectator, and not life, that art really mirrors. Diversity of opinion about a work of art shows that the work is new, complex, and vital. When critics disagree, the artist is when the critics disagree, the artist is in accord with himself. We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. All art is quite useless. Sláinte lads, have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you next week. Mwah.
Get your man the flute to play song, the fuck.
Pints are crocky, heart the druids.